This is going to be a review of Kalif Raymond's 65-yard punt return for a touchdown that really knocked out the Cleveland Browns. Of course, the score is 20-10 early in the fourth quarter. I'm going to try to spotlight as many guys as possible. The film does kind of, to be honest with you, zoom out a little bit. I'm a little disappointed with the quality and consistency of the film that we're getting from the NFL this year. So Jackson Meeks, number 83, is going to handle his business. Yasin and Nowaski are kind of stacked over top of each other. I think they all three have critical blocks in a different way. Credit to Yasin. He really takes over and controls Grant Delpit. I cannot tell you how many times I watched this morning to see Grant Delpit get blocked and see his mouth get shut up at least for one play. Brings me great joy. But in any case, Nowaski is getting beat from the standpoint of the lane to the ball, but he does something really smart. He keeps separation between him and the guy that he was initially trying to block. So I'm talking about number 42. We start to lose perspective of some of these guys as we zoom out. Talking about Nowaski and 42, it's a directional kick, so we can assume that 42 knows where it's going, tucked into the Brown sideline. Raymond catches the ball over here. But there's a lot going on. Number one, the double team on the gunner was effective, even though he did beat those guys downfield. He's the first player that Raymond makes miss. Yasin and Nowaski are in here. Pull that to the side a little bit, and Yasin is the guy that I want to focus on. I think he's just giving more effort than Grant Delpit. To me, it looks like Grant Delpit starts to take this play off. He just can't get away from Yasin. I'm sure there's Browns fans out there saying, oh, he's getting held. He's literally giving negative effort on this play, and Yasin and so many players for the Lions just stay on guys. One of them, Jackson Meeks, is dealing with an inside linebacker. I think it's Jerome Baker, formerly of the Seattle Seahawks. And then once you get through here, meaning Raymond, there's a couple of things going on here. I have no idea who this player is here for the Browns and why he's so far separated from a directional punt. The punter is going to try to close distance. It's really over at this point. Delpit has closed himself out with a lack of effort. But focus on Nowaski, kind of backtrack him a little bit. Remember I said he was trying to get distance or space between him and 42. Here they are initially, locked up at the beginning of the play. And then Nowaski allows the space to stand between them and tries to run back. There's no reason for Nowaski to squeeze here, then he'll lose him, meaning he won't have the leverage to do what is coming up here in a moment. Watch him now bend this back to 42, and it's a critical block in my opinion. That's precisely what Raymond goes off of. And then, as I said, the reason why I spot shadowed Yasin and Nowaski, I think they were critical parts of this play or important parts of this play. And then Raymond is off to the races. It's too late. I wish I could zoom in here, to be honest with you, and see the lack of effort from Delpit. He's a guy who he's played the Ravens many times, often had things to say before the game, during the game, and even afterwards when they've lost, which is pretty much been every time. I will give you the all-22 angle. Unfortunately, it really does zoom out. This is the one that puts Detroit up 27-10. Game really functionally was over at that point. You got a single on the gunner down here and a double up to the top. Now, that gunner does actually run out of bounds and then get to front up Kalif Raymond along the right sideline from a Lions perspective. So it's not, necessarily effective in terms of the double on him. Meeks here is dealing with Baker. Yasin is going to be the guy that locks up Grant Delpit. Nowaski, I think I talked about, enough. And you kind of really lose perspective of the players because, we're so zoomed out. Here's the gunner that was singled. Here's the gunner that was doubled up to the top side, and then there's Yasin and Delpit. Maybe Delpit is a quote safety, but to me that looks like a zero as far as effort. But you don't see that out of any of the Lions players. Of course, they're winning the game at this point, right? Meeks dealing with dealing with Baker. Up to the top side, it almost looks like you've got a block in the back that kind of starts to occur here, and then the Lions player really lets go. It's right in front of a ref, so have to believe, even with this zoomed out angle that we have, if there was a reason to call a block in the back, that they would. There's Nowaski's block on number 42. We'll flow this through a little bit slower so you guys can see how Raymond cuts off of that, and then finally, one more time, Yasin all over Grant Delpit. Really no ability to impact the play because, he had a two-way go, meaning Delpit, we know he functionally should have flowed down here. He should have tried to shed the block and get to this side, but he doesn't know that. He doesn't know exactly what's around him, which is the whole point why you get your ass down there in the first place and you get involved in this whole scrum. But maybe his assignment is as a safety. It's a clean win, I think, for Yasin, I don't know about you, but right around this point here, when he's around the 40 or the 35, I took a sigh of relief. And I usually am typing during the game, typing up some notes. I kind of took a sigh of relief, like, okay, this one's over. Because, Browns are a serious threat. Their defense is high level, obviously. I've seen them twice so far this year. And this game kind of took on the flavor or the progression that I thought, which was the Browns defense is really overwhelming early in the game. Same dynamic existed in their loss in Baltimore. And then eventually they'll fade off because, they get worn down. They're playing so much defense because their offense is really ineffective and inconsistent. It was great blocking, I think, by the Lions players, staying with it, push the lead out to 27-10, allow them to move to 3-1, despite, a couple of injuries to DBs, Terrion Arnold and DJ Reed. This really was a nice ending in that you knew that you could get away with playing whatever corners were out there on the field on defense the rest of this day. No idea what next week will look like against the Bengals. I'm not willing to project yet or talk about that with Arnold and Reed's injuries. I have no idea what the nature of them is or the projection at this point. Thought this was a great play. Credit to Kalif Raymond. He's been making big plays for a long time. You may not know, he actually had a touchdown catch on the first play of the second quarter back in the 2019 playoffs when the Tennessee Titans came to Baltimore and shocked the Ravens. Opening play of the second quarter is a play action, and they go up top to him. Possibly a blown coverage by the Ravens, but the point is they specifically went to him. He's had a long NFL career at this point, been blocking really well lately, in my opinion, particularly in the win over the Ravens. He got into Kyle Hamilton on at least 2 or 3 plays. I think he's playing at a high level. He's not going to get a lot of targets or touches on offense, and he made up for it here with a 65-yard punt return that functionally put the Browns away. If you guys enjoy special teams breakdowns, feel free to let me know in the comment section. I recognize that a lot of people do not. But anytime I see something like this, I want to try to focus on it. I don't think there's any real scheme here. This looks like just mirror or man blocking. So each Detroit Lions player, Yasin, Nowaski, Meeks, etc., has someone that they're assigned to block. There's no real scheme here that I picked up on noticing, other than the fact that the Lions just keep playing football collectively harder and more efficiently and with greater execution than all of their opponents the last 3 weeks.